miss your old familiar friends, but waiting just around the bend. Everywhere you look, there's a heart, there's a heart.
Okay, we'll start with this. Well, it appears that things have been getting dicey at weigh-ins all around the world.
It's a bit chippy.
You know, in the case of Eva Brodnicka and her upcoming WBO title defense, she planted a little smoocheroo on Lucas Mathise's little sister, Edith Mathise, who Eva Brodnicka defended her title against and won a split decision. And unfortunately, no networks on this side of the world were showing the fight, but still, this denotes what appears to be the running theme at weigh-ins on this particular October weekend. You know, you got things getting dicey between Eva and Edith Mathise, who, you know, she just wasn't having it. She didn't appreciate that little smoocheroo. I think some of us out here might have, but Edith didn't like it. She wasn't too pleased. And the big melee at the weigh-in for Claressa Shields and Shields-Habazin. This was to be Clarissa's maiden voyage to the junior middleweight division, but that fight's over. According to Michael Benson and all the news circulating, Claressa Shields versus Shields-Habazin has now officially been canceled after Habazin's trainer, Bashir Ali, was taken away on a stretcher to the hospital after being sucker punched at the weigh-in earlier today. Jaron Ennis and Damian Fernandez will headline instead. Now, for those of you that haven't seen the video circulating already, you know, there was a war of words between Claressa Shields' sister and Bashir Ali, you know, and it was clear that, you know, this was getting a bit, you know,
dicey,
beyond just trash talking. I mean, Claressa herself wasn't actually engaged in any of the festivities, but her sister was. And, you know, there's a rising tide that wants to hold Claressa Shields responsible, but to that I'll say this. If you've seen this video, if you've watched the moments before the melee, you'll see that not only was Claressa Shields composed and she wasn't actually engaging in any of the said trash talking, but she actually tried to diffuse the situation between Ivana's trainer and her sister. And Claressa herself, she just didn't partake in it.
She's cool.
And just, you know, the idea that somehow it's Claressa's fault that her sister, a grown woman, Claressa can't be held accountable for what another adult decides to do, whether they're a member of her entourage or not. Her sister was not there as a member of Claressa's preparation team, per se. She was there more for moral support, because any preparation in association with the fight, well, her sister's not helping her do that.
Nah.
Better still, there are people out there that want to hold Shields responsible for what happened, and I just don't see the angle. I don't see the connection. That granted, this is Claressa Shields' sister, but Claressa herself. Claressa is her sister, not her babysitter.
Nope.
Not her boss.
Nope.
Not her supervisor.
Nope.
You understand? That's not Claressa's fault or her responsibility to dictate and contain the situation. I mean, I know it's very easy to jump to those conclusions in the heat of the moment when you hear that a member of someone's entourage did something they shouldn't have did, and I understand that sentiment. I get it, but when you watch the video, what you see is that Claressa tried to contain the situation as best as she could, but she's not her sister's babysitter. And while I myself don't condone what happened, you know, sucker punching somebody, it's just, you know, I mean, really, where's the integrity, you know, where's the dignity in that? While I myself don't condone what happened, there is something to be addressed in regards to Bashir himself, who was antagonizing her sister. I mean,
now before you get slapped. Alright? Sit your monkey ass down before you get slapped, okay? You ain't no fucking man. You better stay in a woman's place. I'm scared. I'm scared to death. Smack your fucking ass into the mall, girl. I'll slap your ass into the mall, you fucking ass girl.
What's she tripping on, coach?
Motherfuckers acting like a man. I'll knock that bitch out, man.
It's a two-way street. It works both ways. Takes two to tango, and that's what Bashir and Clarissa Shields' sister, that's what they were doing. They were in a war of words between each other, and it wasn't one way. Bashir did antagonize her. He did shout expletives and obscenities, which in turn caused the situation to further escalate. My thoughts on all of this. I don't condone what Clarissa Shields' sister did. I don't. I just know that there was something that led to it. Okay, that in these situations, it's very easy to try to vilify one end of it without looking at the situation in full scope as a whole. That Bashir did help to create the situation by antagonizing, Clarissa Shields' sister further, where he could have so decided to just defuse it altogether because we're not here for you, and today is not about you. It is not your moment, and we are not here gathered today for you. You understand?
Just cool off.
It's a two-way street, and the way that I look at it is that, it's not okay. But that elderly man, he did threaten her with physical violence. He did threaten her. He made comments about her sexual orientation and her appearance and all these different things. I mean, these are things that are happening in the heat of the moment. And the dispute, the quarrel, was really between Bashir and Clarissa's sister, not Clarissa herself. So trying to hold Clarissa responsible for something that two other adults are engaged in. A dispute between two other adults, not necessarily her. Assigning blame to her is just ridiculous, and it reads as an opportunistic way to attack someone who people out there have become very accustomed to attacking. Shields, she's got a big personality. She's very vocal. But even Clarissa herself says that she doesn't condone what happened, and she doesn't condone that kind of behavior. That's what she said in addressing what occurred. My thoughts on this are, in the future, leave your fucking sister at home because she just fucked up your money. She just fucked up your payday. Because apparently she doesn't understand, she doesn't have the temperance, the self-control to realize we are not gathered here today for you, for anything involving you. So you should have just went to sit the fuck down somewhere and let me take out your aggression and mine against his fighter.
Yeah.
I mean, it could have played out that way. Things get dicey at press conferences all the time. There's pushing, there's shoving, there's wars of words. It's an occupational hazard. But I think that Clarissa's sister
is an idiot.
Handled the situation very poorly. No level-headed thinking. The kind of stuff that you come to expect of an adult, because you're a grown fucking woman, and you gotta realize that you're not there to be starting shit or to be mouthing off or whatever, or you don't gotta put up with this. Look, all these people that are around, they're not here for you. So take your ass somewhere, go drink some sugar water, and calm the fuck down. If there are any criminal charges to be addressed, I know some people want to treat it like it's RICO law, where Shields is guilty by association, but that's not what it is. And what this actually is assault and battery. So Clarissa Shields' sister, she's gonna face the consequences of that stupid shit. But to address the growing tide of people who want to blame Clarissa for this shit, okay, that's just bullshit. Clarissa didn't incite this incident. She certainly didn't antagonize it any further. She tried to defuse it, but if two adults, they want to continue engaging in a shouting match, and if one of those adults so decides to strike the other, what the fuck is Clarissa supposed to do about that? I think Clarissa handled the situation as best as she could by, I talked to him, but now it's time for me to go do what I'm doing, because I'm not here for this and I'm not here for them. I'm here to get weighed in for this fight I'm supposed to have. Now the fucking fight is off because, my sister fucked up my money. She fucked it up. They're probably going to postpone this thing. That's what's going to happen. They're probably going to postpone it, move it to a later date. It certainly, this was supposed to be a big moment for Clarissa. If there's any tragedy in this, it's that this was supposed to be a big moment for Clarissa. Now they got to orchestrate this entire situation all over again, if at all. This was supposed to be a moment for Clarissa to show her quality, not for her sister to go mouthing off. If you're so keen on fucking fighting, why aren't you the one with boxing gloves, The most I can say based on what I've seen is that she did what she could. Clarissa did what she could to try to defuse the situation, but there's only so much you can do when two consenting adults so choose to engage in shouting matches with each other, and you know what that leads to. Somebody might get hit. I think what Shields' sister did, I think that it was unnecessary. That, okay, it's time to move the fuck on because you're really not here for this. I think that it shows how infantile and stupid and ignorant Clarissa Shields' sister is. But none of these things are Clarissa Shields' fault. She's not her sister's babysitter. She's her sister, not her mother, not her parole officer, not her supervisor, and not her boss, not her babysitter. Clarissa is her sister. She can't fucking control everything her sister does. Now, as far as Shields-Habazin, who was visibly distraught by all of this, watching Bashir go down, blood coming out of his head, people saying that it took 20 minutes before he came to, that the guy was out cold for 20 minutes. I'm hearing that his head hit the floor on the way down, thus explaining all the blood, because, that's a lot of blood to have come from a single punch. But, as far as Ivana Habazin moving forward, if this fight is to be rescheduled, and these two particular fighters are going to be fighting just at a later date, well, this does give Ivana something to build upon, doesn't it? I mean, if she didn't already have fire in her belly, if she didn't already have an incentive to try hard in a situation where she's a massive underdog, this might give her that incentive. This might give her that which to build upon. I know that this is not Claressa Shields' fault. This entire melee is not of Claressa Shields herself design. It's not her fault. But that don't mean Ivana's gonna look at it that way, does it? Ivana might look at it as, you know what? Claressa Shields' sister, Claressa Shields, what's the fucking difference? Fuck you, yada yada yada. I think it's going to be a very interesting situation if and when they reorchestrate this fight. Where they stage it, when they stage it, and how Ivana Habazin is going to approach it in light of these events. I think that they just made that fight a lot bigger than what it was. That's what I think. Now, normally this is the part of a video where I break down a fight that's coming up or fights that are coming up. But I'm not going to be doing that with this one. I'm not going to be breaking down the Golovkin versus Derevyanchenko fight because, quite honestly, I don't know what I'm going to get. I have no point of reference for which Golovkin is going to show up tomorrow night against Sergey. I mean, at this point in the juncture, you've got a better fix on Sergey than you do on Golovkin. Why is that? Well, Golovkin's in an experimental phase. He's in a transitional stage where he's trying new things with a new trainer, and we simply don't know at this point in the juncture what Golovkin we're going to get. But at minimum, we're not going to get an Abel Sanchez Golovkin. We're not. And that's the only Golovkin we really know. The Golovkin that comes out there aggressive and shoots that jab, pumps it out there at 2 times the middleweight average. That is the Golovkin that we all came to know and love.
That's the one.
While he was with Abel Sanchez. But guess what? He's not with Abel Sanchez anymore. And this isn't a slight at Jonathan Banks at all, or his abilities as a trainer. It's not a slight at him so much as there's an unknown factor to this fight. There is, an area of intrigue because we don't know how Golovkin's going to look, what we're going to get, and we don't have a point of reference. We can't use the Steve Rolls fight as a point of reference for what Golovkin we're going to get because, 1, that was his first fight with Jonathan Banks. 2, that was his first fight since the Canelo rematch. Obviously, there was some ring rust to shake off, so if he didn't look his best in that fight, those are 2 things that you can use to explain it. I mean, in the time that it took Golovkin to fight Steve Rolls, Canelo Alvarez had already squeezed in, I should say, 2 fights. The fight with Rocky Fielding at 168 and the fight with Daniel Jacobs at 160 for the red belt. While those 2 fights were going on, Golovkin wasn't fighting anybody. So he goes into that Steve Rolls fight. Maybe he looks less than perfect. That's okay. It's pretty obvious as to why. Ring rust. This is an aging fighter who was snapping back a small stint of inactivity. But that fight in and of itself is not a point of reference for what Golovkin is going to show up tomorrow. Maybe he goes in there, he wins in dominant fashion. Maybe because he'll have had more time with Jonathan Banks to work on things and smooth things out and become a new and streamlined fighter.
Maybe.
Getting a better fix on what kind of fighter Jonathan Banks will mold him into being. Maybe it happens that way, or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe he goes in there, he looks like shit because he just doesn't have the synergy with Jonathan that he had with Abel. That's another possibility. One way or another, what we can say, at minimum, what we can say, or at least what I can say, is I don't know what Golovkin is going to show up. I don't know what I'm going to see tomorrow night. That's very exciting that it has that air of intrigue, but what it also is communicating that
there's no way of knowing how he's going to look.
How do you break down a fight when you don't know what fighter you're going to get? I mean, at this point in the juncture, we got a better fix on what Sergey might do than what Golovkin might do in response. Because, not much has changed for Sergey. He's still with Andre Rosier. He's still the same aggressive puncher that we've known him to be. But in the case of Golovkin, well, I mean, I don't know what to expect. Should I expect him to be the fighter that we all know who, starts off aggressive, pumping his jab out there, getting a fix on the situation very early in a fight, or is he going to do something else? I really don't know. So it's hard to break down a fight when you really don't know what the guy's going to decide to do. It's exciting, but you know that's what it is. At this point, we know more about what the fighters are going to be paid for the fight as opposed to the fight itself. Yeah, that's right. Golovkin stands to make roughly $14 million overall, $7.5 million in cash and $7.5 million in his own parent company equity. As far as Sergey's said to be getting $4 million, but he's guaranteed to be getting something like $5.2 million. Not sure how to reconcile that. He's getting 4, but he's guaranteed something like 5. Whatever. Clearly, it's going to be a good payday for Sergey. A far better payday than what any other fight could have provided over there on the PBC side of things. I mean, he's getting a multi-million-dollar payday having not participated in a pay-per-view. You know, he's getting $4 million, all things considered. I'd have to say that win or lose, Sergey's really cleaning up. I mean, that's a nice chunk of change. So at this point, we got a better fix on what may end up in the fighters' bank accounts as opposed to which one of them might end up in the hospital. Because when you're trying to forecast the outcome of a fight, you're using history as an indicator of things to come. You know, certain prevalent characteristics and traits that both the fighters regularly exhibit in combat, in a contest. But what happens when something major changes, you know? The fighters with a new trainer and they're working on new things. Suddenly, all that historical precedence that you would have used to forecast the outcome, it means nothing because you may be dealing with an entirely different fighter than the one you're accustomed to seeing. It's for this reason that I can't fucking tell you with any kind of confidence what the fuck's gonna happen tomorrow. I can't tell you that. I can't tell you with any kind of confidence that I got a fix on what the fight's gonna look like. At minimum, I can say that it's gonna be an action fight because if these two guys are anything, they're action fighters. But how Golovkin will approach it? I mean, you know, what if we see more of a back foot Golovkin or more of a mobile Golovkin? You know, a guy fighting behind his jab as opposed to using it as a key to get in. That's the Golovkin that we're accustomed to, the Golovkin coming forward behind his jab. Well, what if this one decides to fight behind it and try to set up counter shots? You know that Golovkin's an aging fighter. He can't afford to keep going in there and taking punishment with these guys, not when he's in his late 30s. So, you know, all things considered, tomorrow's fight, I think if nothing else, it promises to be an action-packed fight. But as far as an aesthetic, I can't tell you with any confidence. I don't know how this fight's going to look. I just know that at least one of these guys is very aggressive, and the other guy, well, he's going to have to find a way to deal with that.